Well, I first met Maxwell Davies working in the Fires of London. I joined in 1981. I was about 18 or 19 at the time, still at the Royal Academy. And the two pieces I was involved in were The Martyrdom of St Magnus and The Lighthouse. The Lighthouse was particularly interesting, particularly from my point of view, in that the horn had a very, very significant role. In the first act, the piece was loosely based on a story about lighthouse keepers disappearing under all sorts of sinister repercussions, shall we say, and the horn acted as the judge in the court of inquiry. So the horn player actually had to learn the whole of the rather complicated part, and the singers would address themselves and sing, obviously, to me, and I was sort of in the middle of the audience. Sometimes I was in a little box in different theatres around Europe, but sometimes I was just on the end of a row. So you can imagine the consternation where sometimes my neighbours had more or less forgotten me. I think they thought I was slightly mad or something, and then I would suddenly start playing this very loud figure, so they would jump out of their skin. So that's how I sort of started working with Max. During one of the tours, he came up to me one day and said, "I've been thinking of writing a little horn piece. I've got a piece for you," and it was just marked "Study," and it turned out to be the first movement of what is now the Sea Eagle. So for some reason, I heard these words come out of my mouth saying, "Why don't you write some more?" And he said, "Well, would you play it if I?" And I said, "Well, of course, you know." So that's how Sea Eagle was born, if you like. I mean, this is one of the most challenging pieces in the repertoire, without any doubt. I mean, there's huge technical challenges, particularly in the last movement, which is very ferocious, almost like a sort of trumpet writing. It goes right to the extremes, very, very low. And the last note is a very sustained pianissimo, hand-stopped top G, sort of off the instrument. I can't think if there's anything else to add to it to make it sound even more difficult, but I mean, it's in performance, it's a particularly daunting prospect when you come to the last line. I think when he was writing the second movement, which is beautiful, sweeping melodies, very sort of dreamlike, that was where he had his inspiration for the title Sea Eagle. And where he was living in rather remote island in Orkney, one day he opened his front door, and of course there were no trees. It was a beautiful day, and there was actually a seagull sort of sitting right outside his front door. And Max got the rather uncomfortable feeling that the seagull was just sort of sizing him up. And I think Max felt slightly uncomfortable in that the seagull thought he was probably just a little bit too big, otherwise he would have made a sensational lunch. So in terms of techniques, it's just the technical difficulty of it. I suppose it is all possible. It's just very, very extreme. But I mean, that's very much in keeping with Maxwell Davies' writing. I remember working with him in the Lighthouse and the Martyrdom of St Magnus. These were all elements there. And these great whoops and glissandos and things. So I would say there's probably no brand new techniques. It's just kind of everything put together to make it potentially uncomfortable, but I think it's a great piece.